So tech spods here on YouTube are positively creaming themselves silly all over Samsung's fresh new Galaxy S21 Ultra, which is a mighty fine piece of phone, but it's also mega bloody expensive. And for those of us who don't have the spare funds to dine on avocado and caviar smoothies every day, well, maybe check out Samsung's fresh new Galaxy A12 instead, which sits happily at the other end of the price spectrum. Here in the UK, you can grab yourself a Samsung Galaxy A12 for just 169 quid. That's more or less the same as the Moto G9 Power and the likes of the Nokia 5.4, which I only just reviewed. And in fact, I just grabbed this from the Samsung website and actually got a free pair of Samsung Galaxy Buds chucked in as well, with the typical retail price of over 100 quid, so it's quite a decent little deal. Or at least it will be if the phone itself doesn't suck. So what I'm going to do now is fully unbox the Galaxy A12, get it all set up and take you on a full-on tour of the hardware and the software to see if it really is good value for money. And for more of the latest greatest tech, please do plug subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers. Alright, let's pop this wee chappy open. So what you get in the box is, of course, one smartphone, your quick start guide, good bit of Type-C USB action. And look, you still actually get a charger with this Samsung phone as well, just not the flagship one that costs 5 times as much. And you do get a pokey pin device to actually get your SIM in there as well, quite handy, so you don't have to scrabble around for an earring or something. And that's sadly it, no bundled condom case, so if you want a bit of extra protection, you'll have to grab yourself your very own cover. So that's the box. Now let's actually check out the phone itself, and this is the Galaxy A12, the blue edition. You can also grab it here in the UK in black or white if you want something a bit more boring, I guess. It's not a particularly stunning or exuberant design here on the Galaxy A12. Admittedly, you can tell it's a budget smartphone just with a quick glance. You got your typical plastic finish, which stretches from the back around the edges of the device as well. And as you can see there, it's actually a 2 textured finish as well. It's quite smooth down below, but then you get this nice textured finish here in the middle, just to add a bit of grip. Thankfully, that camera chassis doesn't jut too far out of the arse end of the Galaxy A12. It's almost level, so that'll be quite handy if you've got the thing lying flat on a desk trying to use it. And the Galaxy A12's definitely got quite a heft to it as well, at over 200 grams, 205 to be precise. And it kind of reminds me of the Nokia 5.4, and quite a chunky build. It is only a 6.5 inch only. It's a fairly average screen size in 2021, but you've got big thick bezels, which will become more evident when I actually turn the screen on. Right, I'm just going to chuck my SIM card into the Galaxy A12, and it looks like it's a dual SIM setup that you got right here, plus a separate slot for micro SD memory cards. All right, so my SIM is inside. Let's fire this beast up. Alright, Mr. Galaxy A12 all set up and ready for action. And first off, I've got to express a little bit of disappointment, and unfortunately it is old Android 10 here on the A12, not the freshest new Android 11. Plus that also means you get Samsung's old OneUI version 2.5 on board as well, so not the latest software compared with the likes of the S21 flagships. I had a good scout about it as well and couldn't find any information on when the Galaxy A12 would be getting updated to Android 11. Hopefully it'll be happening soon, but yeah. Still, while you are missing out on some of the fresh new Android updates, the overall software experience seems fine. Here on the A12, you've got plenty of features to play around with, and of course, if you dive on into the settings, Samsung has added buttloads of bonus bits. And yeah, because this is a budget-friendly smartphone, you don't get some standard One UI features like an always-on display, because this is an IPS panel, not OLED. But if you dive on into advanced features, for instance, go to motion and gestures, you've got all the usual gesture support options in there. You've also got that incredibly handy one-handed mode as well, definitely no pun intended, which is very useful if you're trying to, for instance, keep control of a struggling 5-year-old in the middle of a high street while desperately messaging your wife. Something like that just makes everything much easier to handle. But in my short playtime with the A12, I've noticed quite a few omissions from this handset as well. So for instance, there's no update support. If you were to swipe this way, you can usually get, you know, some basic news headlines and things like that. That's not really a massive miss. No Bixby routines or anything either. If you dive on into the settings, that's all gone. And even the number of pre-installed Samsung apps on the A12 is quite meager compared to usual as well, although you still get all the usual guff like Facebook and good old TikTok, of course. YouTube Music, apparently that's still desperately trying to be a thing. And those Samsung Knox security features have been scaled back compared with what you get on more premium devices too. But the likes of NFC and other features that you'd expect to see on budget smartphones in 2021 are present and correct. As for the storage, you get 64 gigs of internal space here on the Samsung Galaxy A12, pretty standard again for a budget blower. And you've got that micro SD memory card support as well, as you can slap in a memory card of up to 512 gigs to expand that space when needed. Now you've got an edge-mounted fingerprint sensor on the Galaxy A12 for unlocking this phone, and I've got to say, I've found it very hit and miss so far. For one, you can't just basically rest your finger against the sensor and have it automatically scan your print and unlock like with a lot of other smartphones. You have to actually push the power button in first and then scan your print. And I found that certainly when I've tried doing it with my finger, it doesn't seem to work more often than not. I've scanned this thing multiple times and it just does not seem to like it at all. But if I try it with my thumb, I find that that works more often than not. Just push it in and, oh, I spoke too soon. Hang on. Okay, there we go eventually. You do also have a bit of face recognition as well, which as you can see there actually works better than the old fingerprint sensor. Generally, as long as you're not in dodgy lighting, then that will do the job very, very nicely indeed. Now, Samsung is of course known for slapping gorgeous OLED panels on its smartphones, but of course at this sort of budget price point, you'd be a little bit optimistic for expecting the same from the Galaxy A12. That 6.5-inch TFT panel is definitely very basic, putting out the kind of visuals you'd expect from slightly cheaper rivals like the Moto G10. You've got a basic 720p resolution, unfortunately, so that means that finer details are lost when you're streaming from the likes of Disney Plus or YouTube. And of course you do have that cheeky wee nipple notch poking its way into proceedings when you go full screen, but it's only slightly intrusive, it's not too bad. And bad news for Netflix fans as well, because the Galaxy A12 at the moment is certified Widevine L3, which basically means you can't even stream HD content on this thing, it's SD at best. But yeah, shows and movies and everything are still perfectly watchable on Netflix. Just don't expect those fine HD detail levels, and hopefully that Widevine L1 support will be coming soon, so you will actually be able to stream in high definition. If you dive into the display settings, the customization options are rather limited. Again, pretty standard for a budget blow. You certainly don't get any of those poppy colors that you would expect from an OLED panel on a Samsung device, but overall it's fine, if not great. And at least on the top brightness levels, the Galaxy A12 seems capable of dealing with strong glare and everything, so it should be alright when we actually see a bit of sunshine. And you got the usual blue light filters and all that good stuff. As for the audio, well, you got a single bottom-mounted mono speaker here on the Galaxy A12. It seems absolutely fine for just kicking back with a bit of YouTube or something, so let's boost up the volume. But the Nokia 5.4 is far from compact. It's still a proper wide boy thanks to those chunky bezels. So even on the top volume, you should still easily be able to hear what's going on, even with, you know, lots of background rumble, kids acting a fool, things like that. And the clarity is absolutely fine as well. But of course, if you want to enjoy some tunes or something, you're going to want to plug in a good pair of headphones using that headphone jack. Otherwise, you've also got Bluetooth 5 support here on the Samsung Galaxy A12 too. Now, the chipset of choice for the Samsung Galaxy A12 is the Mediatek Helio P35. Now, you won't find the Helio P35 in many other smartphones at all here in the UK. The likes of the Moto G30 Power Lite and the Oppo A31, quite old handsets now. And that's backed by 4 gigs of RAM here on the Galaxy A12, and I've certainly noticed plenty of little stumbles here and there when I've been flicking through menus, when I've been just trying to browse the internet, things like that. So definitely basic performance at best. And that's something that's further highlighted by the very simple, very low scores here in Geekbench 5 as well. As you can see, just 164 for the single core score and 1018 for the multi-core. So if you are looking for stronger performance at this sort of price point, I'd definitely recommend going for something like the Moto G30 or the Nokia 5.4, which support a Snapdragon 662 chipset instead. And gamers will be better served elsewhere as well, again by a Snapdragon 662 smartphone instead. The Galaxy A12 can just about handle the likes of PubG and Call of Duty on those lower detail settings, but it was quite a juddery experience here on Call of Duty Mobile playing online. I did actually manage to win a game, which is probably more down to luck than anything else. But yeah, the screen responsiveness and everything is fine, but you will see plenty of little judders and stumbles as you're playing along, which obviously ain't ideal in a frantic life or death online situation. The good news though is that you still get that great game booster tool that Samsung throws on all of its more premium smartphones, and it's here with the full notifications blocking and all of that good stuff on the Galaxy A12, so that's a nice little addition. And certainly no worries if you fancy gaming all day as well, because you get a mighty 5000 milliamp battery packed inside of the Galaxy A12, and that should keep you going all day, even with fairly hardcore use. And as you can see, it's down to 94%. I've had it for about an hour now, screen on time with gaming, a good bit of YouTube streaming, all of that good stuff, and yeah, it's barely dropped at all. And the Galaxy A12 supports 15 watts fast charging, as Samsung terms it. Not particularly nippy, of course, but for a budget blow, it's absolutely fine. And let's finish off this unboxing and full tour of the Galaxy A12 with a squint at that quad lens rear camera. Yes, there are 4 lenses on there despite the budget asking price, but don't get too excited because a lot of these things it is a case of quantity over quality. Now what you have here is a 48 megapixel primary sensor, but it's a quad pixel technology that Samsung uses. So what that basically means is you'll get a 12 megapixel photo every time you hit that shutter button. Shutter speed doesn't seem too lethargic for a budget smartphone, as you can see there. Bit of a gap in between actually pressing it and getting your photo, but nothing too bad. You got your usual set of toggles, including flash, a timer, all that good stuff up top. And if you dive on into the camera settings, you've got the likes of the HDR mode and stuff in there as well. Now, as well as that 48 megapixel primary sensor, you can also jump to the 5 megapixel ultra wide angle lens with a quick tap like so. That gives you a very pulled back view of the world, as you can see there, and it's generally quite good for, you know, obviously if you're trying to shoot a landscape or if you're trying to shoot your kid in action, you can get some quite dramatic results. Although at 5 megapixels, you can already see just on the screen there, the detail levels aren't going to be great. Yeah, definitely looking very sort of grainy and fuzzy right there, and the color reproduction, not exactly stunning, but not too unnatural either. You've also got a 2 megapixel depth sensor slapped on the back of the Galaxy A12 for your live focus shots, basically Samsung's slightly wanky term for a portrait snap. And this can just add a nice bokeh style bit of background blurring as well. As you can see, you've got full control over that as well, so you can minimize the blur or boost it all the way up. And once you've actually taken your snap as well, if you're not too happy with the background effect, you can actually alter it in edit afterwards, which is a nice little feature. You can get the same feature on the likes of the Motorola's as well. So as you can see, you can dial it down or boost it up. And Samsung smartphones usually offer up enough bonus camera modes to choke a beluga whale, but in the case of the Galaxy A12, it's quite restrained, as you can see there, no doubt due to the performance limitations. You do get a pro mode though, so you can dive on into there and you can play around with the ISO level, the white balance, and the brightness levels. You've got a food mode as well, which is quite handy if you want to share a picture of your beans on toast or whatever. You might, you know, once we start going to restaurants, I guess you can probably get some more exciting stuff on the go. And you've got a macro mode as well, of course, because that's basically obligatory in budget smartphones, and that uses the final lens slapped on the back of the Galaxy A12, a simple 2 megapixel macro lens, just to basically capture a grainy, not very good looking snap of whatever you're getting up close and personal with. As for your home movies, well, the Galaxy A12 can shoot video at up to full HD resolution. As you can see there, you can change it if you want down to standard HD at 30 FPS. There's no full HD at 60 FPS option, and there certainly ain't no 4K option. And then last up, if we go back to the photo mode and then flip around to that front facing nipple notch selfie camera, it's an 8 megapixel effort. It's going to be basic at best, I can tell you right now. So if you're into your Instagrams or anything like that, again, you might want to up your budget or something, but you know, it'll be absolutely fine for just simple shareable shots. You know what, that one definitely ain't getting shared, apart from obviously with you fine folk on YouTube. That has just been deleted right the hell off this smartphone. So that right there is a whole bunch of words on the Samsung Galaxy A12, a budget-friendly smartphone which you can grab right now in the UK for under 200 quid. As I say, if you grab it direct from Samsung, at the time I shot this video, you can get some free Galaxy Buds with it as well, which ain't too shabby at all. Of course, in my short time with the Galaxy A12, I've noticed a few little issues, primarily the performance. I would definitely say if you're tempted by this one, maybe shop around the likes of the Moto G30, for instance, offers a step up in performance. The Oppo A53, which I absolutely loved as well, definitely a good one at this price. But of course, as always, it'll be great to hear from you guys as well. Are you still tempted by the Galaxy A12, or have you actually already spunked up some cash for one? How's your experience been so far? Please do leave your own mini review down below, and please do also poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell and all that other YouTube jazz as well. Very much appreciated indeed, and have yourselves a lovely rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you.